Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Pursuit 365 podcast with your host, Shelly Smee, for the Real Estate and Finance Fridays. Today, I'm joined by one of my colleagues and business partner, Naoma Isobe. Hi, Naoma. How's it going?
Good. How are you, Shelly?
I'm doing great. So, we could have done this in the office, but then it would have been weird because wouldn't be able to be on the two different screens. So, a day in the life of a busy downtown realtor. What were some of the things that you did today?
I had to run around and pick up some keys today and drop them off to clients. And went to the office for a little while, made some phone calls, and now I'm home.
Excellent.
Wasn't too crazy of a day today.
Wasn't too crazy. Didn't have to go out in the hot weather across any bridges or
No traffic today,
anywhere.
which is good.
Awesome. So, Naoma, what made you decide to get into real estate
Well,
as a career?
Growing up in West Vancouver, I always saw a lot of very beautiful, fancy houses when I was younger. And that made me really like attention to details in the houses that I saw, and really made me want to see if I could do that as a career in selling them.
Excellent. Did you go to open houses with your parents at all, or was it just something that did you know
I
anybody
went
who was in the
to
business?
Yeah, I went to a few open houses with my parents when I was younger, and I grew up with a few parents of mine that were all a bunch of them were realtors. So watching them and their lifestyle and stuff like that, which really caught my eye and intrigued me.
Did you just see the flash, or did you actually understand what level of commitment it was going to be required to service
Honestly, when I
clients?
was younger, I didn't really see all that side of it, more of the flash.
Right.
But now that you get into it, it's very, very tough, and you got to be committed.
You've
It's
got to
not
be
easy.
committed. Not easy. So, what is your favorite type of product to sell or to buy? I mean, we're kind of in a buyer's market now. We've been in a seller's market for so long, but
Yes.
what are you seeing out there that you think is, say, a good deal? Because I mean, that's something people always ask us. What do you think is a good deal? What do you think is a good deal? What are you seeing right now that provides an opportunity in the
I'm actually
marketplace?
seeing a lot of detached pricing come down quite a lot. So I think
Mm,
it's a great time for people to move up in the market.
right.
Yes. That's kind of where I'm at right now with what people should be investing into or trying to move up into. Either townhouses or detached is probably your best bang for your buck right now. The condo market seems to be very slow.
So how would you structure that if somebody wanted to go from a condo to a detached when the condo market's a little flat? Do you think
Well, you have
that's
to be.
really depends
You're
on
gonna have
what
to,
the product is?
it depends on the product, and also it really depends on what they're really to sell their condo for. Because pricing has to be very spot on in this market right now for sellers in order for that product to move. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting on that product for months because there's just
Right.
too much of it. So as long as
Well,
they okay with the pricing, that's probably the first step in discussion.
do you find with those type of sort of lateral or maybe move up buyers that they change neighborhoods? Is that often a part of
Yeah,
the strategy?
yeah, you definitely need to change neighborhoods most likely if you want to get into that detached market. I'm seeing a lot of stuff in like Coquitlam, that area. The price has come down quite a lot. I have a client looking right now for a detached house, and I'm seeing a lot of stuff come out in like the 1.5 for a 3 bedroom house in Coquitlam, which
Right.
is yeah, which is quite good for to get into the detached market, seeing how like a 2-bedroom condo downtown is going for 1.5 million.
Yeah, there is that interesting differential in the downtown condo market. I was just actually looking at listings myself downtown in that sort of Yaletown downtown area versus, say, out in Brentwood, where there's just so many
Yeah,
condos on the market. Whereas in Yaletown, the same price will be a much smaller apartment. So when we're looking at lifestyle sort of interconnecting with value, um, if you were a first-time home buyer right now, where do you think you'd get the best value for getting into, say, 600 square foot or 700 square foot one bedroom? Not like a tiny studio, but like a one bedroom. Where do you see value right now?
value. You're probably looking really good value in like still Surrey area, but
Hmm.
that's a completely different lifestyle than what most people are okay
But we
with, I
have to
guess.
start somewhere, right?
Exactly. Yeah, for
We have
sure.
to start somewhere. Um, say you're in the $600,000 price range. What do you think realistically somebody can get for 600? What neighborhoods do you think they're going to be in?
You could probably look Coquitlam, Surrey, potentially still Burnaby. Maybe you're kind of priced out of Burnaby now. Maybe a little bit in South Van area too. You probably can get something.
Yeah,
Those will probably give
and
you.
I've also noticed a lot of buildings that are hitting the sort of 25-year old and older are
Yeah,
are kind of coming down. So that brings us to another topic that I know that you are very, very good at is when you're looking at an older or newer building and you're looking through the documents, the strata documents, what are some of the things that you look for very carefully?
I start usually with the depreciation report and go
Right.
through that. Yeah, and look through there and see what kind of lifespan is left in some of the bigger projects of the building, like the windows, the piping, the parkade, that kind of stuff. If that's coming close to the end of its lifespan, you may want to stay away from that building, depending on how much money obviously is in the reserve and stuff like that, and see if they've started planning for that kind of project.
What if somebody says, you know what, this is such a good price, I'm willing to take the risk? I mean, when somebody
Well,
says
you
to me that, I'm like, well, it's not so much the risk, it's can you plan for that cash flow requirement if the item comes up in the first term of, say, your 5-year mortgage?
right, as well as maybe the bank won't even approve the building because it's red flagged, as well as another thing to look at.
That is true as well. So when we're in this kind of very different, tighter financing environment that we find ourselves in the last 2 years, um, with things maybe adjusting a bit through the late summer and early fall. Um, and this is a question that I know you're going to hate because I don't even really know the answer. Variable or fixed? Variable or fixed?
Oh God.
I
Well, I
know,
just
right?
renewed my mortgage,
Yeah,
and I went variable.
yeah,
So, I mean, I guess I'm kind of leaning towards that because I'm hoping the rates are going to come down for the next year.
right, right.
Fingers crossed. So that's kind of where I'm
Fingers
at.
crossed. I know.
Yeah. So I would probably go variable and tough it out for a year.
So I watch quite a few different people on social media, and that seems to be what majority of people are saying. But maybe we're just a little more risk tolerant than the average person.
Right. A lot of people like to know exactly what their costs are, not change, right? So, and they
Right.
get comfort with that. But yeah, it's a tough decision to make right now.
If you were to start your career all over again, what do you think? Are there any things that you wish you would have known going in that you know now?
Maybe how stressful it could be at times, and how strong-willed you need to be, as well as how many other realtors are out there, and only a certain amount of them actually make money.
That's true. That's true. So, one of the things that I really appreciate you for is your attention to detail. When we're explaining to clients what's going to be required in their transaction, um, what are some of the things that you think people aren't really aware of when it comes down to the level of paperwork? Or, I mean, it's all online, so we still call it paperwork, even though it's mostly electronic. But what are some of the things that have changed in the last couple years that the average person probably isn't aware of?
As in terms of paperwork for the real estate transaction.
Yeah, just the amount of due diligence and the amount of things that the government or the regulator has thrown at us that people sometimes say, why are we doing this? Or why do we have to do that?
Yeah, it's constantly changing. I mean, there's so much that goes into it now. There's just pages and pages of paperwork that you need to fill out with your clients and walk them through. Like the recent one that just came out is consent of purchase. That one's, I don't even know why we need to fill that one out. Honestly, it's because it's in everything
I know,
else.
because there is the ban on foreign buyers. So we're taking the ID and we're filling out forms for the FinTrack part of the government. So having people double assess themselves on whether they're a Canadian citizen or not seems a little over the
Exactly.
top. Yeah.
Yeah, don't really understand that one, but here we are doing it for every transaction now.
Yeah. So I think what is your sort of perfect day in real estate? What does that look like?
We'll wake up, start with answering all my emails in the mornings, and then in the afternoons, I like to be out for showings or running around with clients for the afternoon and evenings. That's typically a day of mine goes. Try to squeeze some phone calls in there throughout the day with trying to prospect new clients and book more appointments for the rest of the following week and month. But that's kind of how a day of mine goes. They're a
Take
little
the
bit
dog
slower
out.
start. And then,
Take the dog
yeah,
out
take the
for a
dog out
walk. Try and get a dog walk and a workout in there somewhere.
somewhere if possible. The dog walks are mandatory, so
Yeah.
they'll happen.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Do
your
you find
personal time
since
is.
Sorry about that. Do you find since you got your dog that it forces you to take like breaks from the computer or breaks during the day?
Yeah, actually, it's which is kind of nice once in a while. Get a little bit of fresh air, because otherwise you'd be sitting there and hours go by, you don't even realize it.
No. You can spend hours, hours, hours at your computer. So what's on the agenda for the week coming up?
This weekend we will be doing some open houses, which we need to talk to our clients and schedule still. We have a few listings that have got some action, but nothing generating. So we'll probably keep pushing those ones this week.
And I believe we're going to the Burnaby fireside chat with the mayor of Burnaby. Are you going to that one, or is that just Michael and I?
I think that one's just Michael and you. This
Okay.
one's new.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the changes in zoning that the provincial government has brought forward, do you see that being a real opportunity, or really just making it more confusing for the consumer to know what to do next.
I mean, it's definitely going to be confusing at the start, but it's just, I mean, everything that comes out is always a learning curve. But once you understand it, I think it's definitely going to be some opportunity for clients. So I think it's a good thing.
So, do you have any builder of your builder client base that's asking you about this yet? Or I guess we're all just still waiting to see how the different municipalities actually interpret it.
Yeah, still waiting, but I know like even Burnaby has started to change some of their stuff too. And one of our clients we have a house listed for them, they started asking me about it the other day. So I
Right.
kind of have to, yeah, look into that a little bit more for him still.
Well, it'll be interesting when we go to that presentation. I believe it's next week, to hear exactly how Burnaby's going to manage this multiple units on a single family lot situation.
And
A lot of the
I
lot
was
sizes in Burnaby are bigger anyway than the Vancouver standard lot size. So how they interpret that for a build out is going to
And it
be
looked like
interesting.
the requirements for the lot sizes were pretty small too for the Burnaby when I was looking into it briefly. So it's gonna be interesting.
Always interesting. Nothing ever
Yeah,
stays the same for very long.
that's true.
When you go
Very true.
traveling, what are some of the favorite types of architecture around the world? Do you have a favorite sort of vibe, or maybe even
I
some of your
do.
favorite buildings in Vancouver?
I'm more of a modern building type of a person that leans towards more modern buildings, like high rises and stuff like that, and that kind of architecture. Not so much into the historic ones.
Right.
So that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. Yeah.
Is there any, what is your favorite iconic building in Vancouver? If we, I mean, I think we have a few. Other people would beg to differ, but when you go
Nice.
to show a certain building, do you have any favorite buildings?
That's a very good question.
I know I'm putting you on the
Um,
spot here. We didn't practice any of this ahead of time. I'm putting Noma
oh.
totally on the spot here.
Actually, that's a really good question. Let me think about it for a second. Where would I? Hmm. Does it have to be a residential building or any kind of building?
No, any kind of building, I guess. Doesn't necessarily have to be residential.
Okay. I do like some of the commercial buildings. That's the new one that's going up on Georgia there. I can't remember. I think it's called. Oh, what was the name of it? It's the one that sticks out like cubes. I think it's called Cubes.
The
Right?
Yeah.
The Cube. I think it's called the Cube. Do you know which one I'm talking about? That new one right across the Amazon post office.
Oh, really? No, I right by the post office, the one that was the post office.
No, the one right across, like kitty corner to it. It's got like blocks
Oh, where
sticking
they
out of it.
added on, to the building.
Yeah, it's like it's Deloitte's new head office.
Oh yeah, yeah, that one's really cool. That one's really cool.
Yeah,
But I
probably pick
think they
that one up.
actually added on to a building that was already there and
Oh,
stuck
really?
that on
Huh.
it. You know,
Interesting.
it's like I call this sort of figuring things out Vannesia. It's like Vancouver changes so quickly. It's hard to remember what was there before and what you just see what's come next. I'm kind
Right.
of the opposite. I do really like a lot of the heritage
Historic ones. I
style
remember that.
lower rise or
Yeah.
lower rise buildings in the West End with the built-ins. And although, I have to say, and I even find this with older homes too, sometimes they just smell kind of musty, like old wood has that
Yeah, they
certain
definitely have
kind
that
of
smell.
older home smell, like the turn of the century craftsman home
Yes, I know exactly what you're
has that
talking about.
kind of patina to it.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
is there any particular new developments on the horizon that you want to go check out or that are coming up that are interesting? It seems like, to me anyway, the future pricing is just so uncertain right now, and seeing what
So
developers are going to try and, future price current inventory that's coming online. It seems like we've kind of hit the wall as far as pricing goes.
yeah, I agree with you there. I'm a big fan of pre-sales. I do still like them a lot. But their pricings that you're seeing right now are definitely up there and a little outrageous. But I still do believe in pre-sales. I still think there's opportunity to be made in pre-sales as long as you do your due diligence and the floor plans are unique enough. I think there'll still be money to be made there, especially
Oh,
with if the interest rates go down, like we hope they do.
right. Do you find that a lot of there's a shift in the pre-sale buyer sort of, I guess, the typical pre-sale buyer? Previously, it was more investors, but do you think that is a great way for people to get into their first home still?
I think so. Yeah, as long as you're not going with the ones that are just ridiculously overpriced, I think it's still a good way to get into the market for people, first time buyers. Just because you can get away with such a low percent down these days that it gives them an opportunity to get their foot in the door at least,
And
secure some.
incentives, and save
Yeah,
up for when the building's finished.
exactly.
The differential between future pricing and, somebody being able to go buy something resale right now, in some areas is quite high. In other areas, there's not much of a differential. Um, would you agree that Coquitlam and Port Moody are pretty reasonable right now?
I think Port Moody's gone up quite a lot actually.
Right,
Coquitlam's still very reasonable.
right.
There's a big, I feel like there's like a cult in Port Moody that people just love it there, and it's gone up quite a lot already.
Well,
I don't
they've
know if
done
there's
such a
a
great job of developing the foreshore parks and putting in
yeah,
amenities and developing
and
their
then
own sort of little brewery district
yeah, they have
area
a good little
down
community going on there,
there. Yeah.
and I feel like the pricing is quite high already. I feel like I don't know if that's the best place to go. Coquitlam though is still pretty very reasonable.
And now that the SkyTrain line is pretty well established, it seems
Right.
like it's still attractive to be in a transit oriented development area.
Yeah. Even like I feel like Maple Ridge could be very good for first time
Right?
buyers to get this because their pricing is still very very low. You don't really see those pricings anywhere else.
Pretty reasonable.
Yeah, very very reasonable.
What about Richmond? It seems to me Richmond's a little flat right now.
Yeah, I actually don't do a lot in Richmond. I try to stay
Yeah.
away from Richmond.
There is something to be said about sticking to the neighborhoods that you really know well and like well. Yeah, I'm not particularly well versed in Richmond, but when I was kind of doing an overview um, the other day, because being on MLS is, I don't know, it is our job to know what the inventory is. But at the same time, looking at trends, and when the real estate monthly stats come out from the MLS department, it's just interesting to see what's moving and what's not moving. What looks like is really moving right now is detached east side homes or semi-detached east side properties in Vancouver. That seems to be really one of the only things that's moving quickly.
Yeah, there's a lot of listings right now. I think the stats just said that we're 30% higher than since last June in active listings. So
So there's a lot more for people to choose from, but if they don't price their condo well, they're not going to be jumping into that next property.
yeah, so pricing is very very important right now. I feel. but it's
Pricing,
a lot of sellers,
pricing
yeah,
and opportunity.
a lot of still sellers are still stuck on their pricing though. So it's tough. The
Well,
reality
and
check
that's
for them.
part of our job too is, we see the trends as they're happening, whereas the media reports things that have happened a month ago when the
Right.
statistics come out. So I think it is important to be able to have those conversations about timing and motivation, and have them, on a regular basis, because things can change really quickly, as we've seen in the last few months.
Right. Exactly. Got to make a few of those phone calls today, actually.
Well, and that's our job. It's not you. It's
Yeah.
gone are the days where you could put something on the market and just know that it's going to sell. I mean,
Right.
that's the
Exactly.
other thing. People that are newer to the industry, I don't know. Have you seen a down market before? Because I think how many years is it now? I know it's been longer than I think it is.
Yeah, I got my license in 2015, so going on almost 9 years.
Wow. Yeah. So was there a down market since 2015? There's been little blips along the way, but um, yeah, I think what we're going to see in the next couple years is going to be different than what anybody's seen in the last 20 years.
Right.
It's been very, very
But
strong for 20 years.
yeah, I think Vancouver needs a little bit of that reset in the market a little bit though, because the pricing got a little crazy there, out of hand.
Yeah. Well, we still have lots of people moving here. Our net migration numbers are still very high. Um, and it's a beautiful place to live. So people are still going to want to keep coming here. What they
That's
really
for
need
sure.
to build is more hotel rooms. I tell you, and not that I was a strong proponent of Airbnbs, but certainly not having any short-term accommodation options in the downtown core or anywhere for that matter, except in the suburbs or in a home that you live in. Um, I think was politically very damaging to.
Yeah, that's gonna the
I don't
tourism
think it's
market,
really improved the rental market. Rents are higher than they've ever been. So how
which
is
is
that
which is
supposed to
yeah,
help?
which is interesting how that happened. Because I thought for sure there'd be a flux of inventory coming into the rental market, which would give some people opportunity to negotiate some prices, but doesn't seem that way.
No, what it seems like is people who didn't want to run their Airbnb anymore, or couldn't afford it, or whatever the situation was, it had ended up selling to an end user.
Yeah.
Didn't sell to another investor who rented it out and kept the inventory and rental inventory. It it sold to an end user, a first time buyer, or somebody who actually wanted to live in that apartment. So in some ways I think it backfired. It didn't
Right.
help create any more rental inventory at all. It just dumped for quite a short period, um, a whole bunch of, you know, inventory that had been in the short-term rental market into the market where people have purchased it, to either rent out long-term, but mostly end users. I think we had a few of those deals in the spring. People bought things to live
Yeah.
in, which is great because first and
Yeah.
foremost, your purchase is first and foremost your home, and then after that it's investment.
Yeah,
So
and that's gonna be interesting with that new 4 months notice now for investors as well.
that is something else that I think our industry is going to have to advocate very hard to the government. My personal soapbox on that one is that if landlords or change of use to a new owner wanting to live in the property is a 4 months notice period, I think they really should have made the notice by the tenant 2 months. It's going to be 2 months for the tenant and
Yeah.
4 months for the owner, because it doesn't really, with the 30-day notice staying the same, it doesn't really give people a lot of leeway to find another place.
I agree. If it moves one way, it should move the other way as well.
Well, I mean, on the side of the tenant's benefit of having a little bit longer to find a place. I mean, if they're given 4 months notice and then they find a place really quickly, then the dates change. I don't know. I just think there isn't a lot of thought that's gone into the mechanics of how we're going to be able to keep people happy and keep the dates organized and understand
Right.
what everybody's responsibilities are going to be in these scenarios.
I wonder if there are going to be any loopholes around this.
Well, I don't know about loopholes, but it's certainly in
Great.
a couple different lawyers that I've spoken with. What it creates is uncertainty. And when there's uncertainty and people are confused, it creates problems in a consistency in the way in which the rules are applied. And that's, I think, really what a lot of the issues around this 4 month notice period is that we need to retool how we're going to do the business. And like the mortgage broker, Rima, we were speaking with yesterday, for the mortgage brokers, they often have, rate holds that they have to consider. And
Yeah.
if it's, or when the properties are evaluated for their
Appraisals.
landing value, for the appraisals, it could appraise very differently 3 months later, right before closing, if the market's changing. So there's a lot of different things that come into play on this, but
Yeah.
who's
It should be
who's
interesting.
who's to say what will actually be the implementation strategy that we will have to work with in
Because
writing
we,
contracts of purchase and sale for purchaser use of the property.
and we deal with quite a lot of tenanted properties in our business over the past couple of years too. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess we'll just have to wait another month or two till the BCFSA and the residential tenancy branch get together and figure out what the new forms will be. We'll have more new forms, Noah. There'll be
Yeah.
that
Right.
web portal that, you know, there'll be the web portal that the landlord, that's the current owner of the property, will have to go do their paperwork through to give the notice. But then what
Oh, it's your
happens?
phone. Okay.
Yeah, the
Okay.
portal. And then what happens if the new owner who's purchasing the property will probably have to fill out some kind of paperwork to prove that they're actually moving in. I don't know. This is still so unknown how it's going to work.
I feel like a lot
But
of
we
landlords
will
will.
be there to figure it out
I
and let people know
feel
once we know.
like there's going to be a lot of landlords paying off tenants in the future.
Well, but does it create more housing?
Yeah. Who
All
knows?
of these things, they don't actually create more housing. Building creates
Right.
more housing
Exactly.
and affordable housing. I mean, it's one thing to create, housing that is selling at pre-sale at $2,000 a square foot, but to create housing that goes into the rental inventory purpose built. I know there's quite a lot of that inventory coming on, but it's still not here for now. Still two,
Yeah.
3, 4, 5 years down the pipeline. So
Exactly.
I guess the best we can do is just look at the big picture and then look at the microeconomics of everything and give the best advice we can.
That's right. I guess so.
Well, thanks for joining today. I know that it's always great to work alongside you and know that you've got our
Likewise.
backs with a lot of the administrative side of things as well, keeping us in line and also out there rounding up new business.
Thank you, Shelly. Appreciate it. Likewise.
Okay, and we'll see you soon.
Sounds good. Thank you, Shelly.
Okay, thanks, Noah. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Talk to you later.